Good morning. Today's video starts at Hakata Station. This time, we will talk about ancient times in Fukuoka Prefecture. I will discuss. Today, Fukuoka Prefecture is a place where many people come and go. But of course, there was a time when humans first began to inhabit this area, approximately 30,000 to 20,000 years ago. In terms of Japanese historical periods, this is the Paleolithic era. The first stop is the Paleolithic site in Fukuoka Prefecture. In Fukuoka Prefecture, the central area is currently Hakata Station where I am, or around Nishitetsu Fukuoka Tenjin Station, which is roughly the center. Now, most people live around here. But in the past, this area was sea. So people did not live here. Where did they live? In the southern part, away from the sea. So the site we are heading to is located roughly in this area. The 8:49 a.m. local train bound for Fukuoka. We will take this to Sasahara Station and head there. Now we have arrived at Sasahara. The area where ancient people lived is around here. Places suitable for human habitation are generally flat. There might be some exceptions, but living in the sea or in the mountains is quite rare. Humans have created flat land by reclaiming land from the sea or draining water in various ways, and started living there. This is a story from much later, around the Edo period. What I'm discussing now, the Paleolithic era, obviously could not have involved such activities. You can see the slope here. It's a bit elevated. So archaeological sites are often found on such elevated areas. The reason is that in the past, sea levels were higher than they are now. For example, if the sea level was here, then the land beyond this point would be the dry land. So, close to the sea, people used water for living, and there were flat areas, making it easier to live, which is where the sites are located. As we climb this small hill, we reach the top of the hill. This is the Muroka site. This place is currently empty. But there is one thing. There is a sign like this. It says Muroka B site. This site is located between the Mikasa River and Naka River, which is a geographical detail. It is written that it is located at a slightly higher elevation. It also says that in ancient times, this area had Yayai period jar coffin graves, which are burial sites. So it was known that people lived here during the Yayai period. However, later, excavation surveys revealed that it is a complex site spanning from the Paleolithic era over 20,000 years ago to the Muromachi period. It is described as such. In other words, from the Paleolithic era, people lived in this area continuously, and remnants from the Muromachi period have been found. That's the situation. As mentioned earlier, since it is an elevated area, living here was probably easier for people. Since we are discussing the Paleolithic era, I will skip over the later periods for now. Looking at the current location, this is the hill area. I came up from this side, and here I am now. Basically, the area that was investigated is on the eastern side. So, on the other side, though it's not visible right now, on that side, many remnants were found. It is written. In any case, the earliest humans in this current area of Fukuoka are imagined to have lived around here. This scene we see today, of course, did not include any artificial structures back then. The sea probably extended here, and there were likely forests and mountains, natural landscapes. I'd like to discuss something here. You might be looking at the current map on Google Maps. This is what I mentioned about the higher sea level in the past. Let me recreate that for you. Here's an image with the sea level raised by 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, 40 meters, 50 meters, 60 meters, 70 meters, 80 meters, 90 meters, 100 meters. So, it looks something like this. Although we're not sure exactly where the sea level was in the past, it is clear that the Fukuoka plain was once covered by the sea. So, with the current view I'm seeing, you can imagine that it was once a sea. From what we've just discussed, it might be easier to picture. That wraps up our discussion of the Paleolithic period. Next, we'll move on to the Jomon period. Let's head to the Jomon period ruins. As expected, these ruins are located quite close to the Paleolithic sites. These are quite famous ruins, and they are included in textbooks. We're heading to the Itazuke ruins. According to a search on my smartphone, it takes about 17 minutes on foot. It's a bit hot, but it can't be helped. There are no buses, so I'll walk. It's so hot that I'm sweating a lot. So I bought some water. When exploring historical sites, remember to stay hydrated. After a bit of walking, I can see a sign for the Itazuke ruins. It's already visible. Over there in the grassy area. On the side of the road, it says that rice cultivation began here. The term rice cultivation is extremely important when it comes to the Itazuke ruins. It says here that rice cultivation in Japan was believed to have started in northern Kyushu during the early Yei period. However, excavation conducted at this site in 1978 revealed the oldest rice paddy in Japan beneath the early Yei paddy remains. This means that while it was previously thought that rice cultivation began during the Yei period, it was actually practiced even earlier, as evidenced by the Itazuke ruins. Although we briefly touched on the Yei period, let's focus on the Jomon period first. During the Jomon period, the climate warmed up. As mentioned earlier, sea levels in Japan rose steadily. This rise is known as the Jomon transgression, which occurred during the Jomon period. The rise in temperature affects not only humans but also plants and animals. In colder periods, coniferous forests, like those found in Hokkaido, thrive. As temperatures warmed, broadleaf forests began to grow. This change in vegetation affected the types of nuts and other plants available. Consequently, human diets also changed. In terms of animals, large species like the Nauman's elephant and mammoth died out. Smaller animals like foxes, raccoons, and rabbits became more common. With the disappearance of large animals, hunting methods had to adapt. Large animals could be hunted with spears. However, smaller animals are more elusive and require different techniques. Thus, projectile weapons like bows and arrows became essential for hunting. Let's take a look at the reconstructed rice paddy from the late Jomon period. This is the rice paddy site we discussed earlier. Next to it, there's a water channel. When I visited before, there was water flowing through here, which made it easier to understand. But now, it's so hot that it's dried up. I think last time I visited, there was water flowing through here. Looking over here, you can see that rice is planted in the mud. It's a bit small, but modern techniques are also used, like moving water and directing it to different areas. This is how they used to manage the water supply. Oh, look, there's a tadpole here. In front of me is something like this. Maybe a map? It's a map, but it's from a rather unfamiliar perspective. It shows Japan from a view that is not commonly seen. This probably represents the cultural influence coming from China or the Korean peninsula. It likely illustrates the situation from the Chinese side, showing Japan's landscape. It probably depicts the irrigation facilities of the time. The upper part might be the upstream, where water is initially diverted. The water would then be redirected and flow into the fields. The system used for rice cultivation seems to be shown here. Thus, it depicts the period of the early Yei or the late Jomon period. During this time, conflicts over water resources began to emerge, as rice paddies were created around villages. The downstream villages experienced reduced water availability. This led to conflicts between villages over water access, which became a significant issue during the Yayai period. This competition for water resources often resulted in disputes and conflicts between villages. The period is characterized by such struggles over the essential resource of water. When studying history, we often start with the early periods like the Yayai or Jomon periods, which seem almost like primitive times. Many people might remember being taught about pottery from this era. But why was it so important to learn about pottery? The reason is that pottery fundamentally changed human life. With pottery, people could store water and other substances, which wasn't possible before. This allowed people to transport water from farther away. Additionally, by heating water in these pots, people could cook food. Cooking with hot water allowed for a wider variety of foods. This major shift in daily life explains why pottery was so crucial and why it's emphasized in history education. Thus, studying pottery in high school and middle school highlights its significance in transforming human lifestyles. For example, without these pots in the past, it was not possible to carry water. With pottery, however, people could transport water from distant sources. Additionally, if you fill these pots with water and heat them from below, you can make hot water. With hot water, you can add things like leaves and meat, which broadens the variety of dishes that can be cooked. So, because pottery drastically changed human life, it was essential and important. That's why we studied pottery in high school and middle school. And finally, agriculture, specifically rice farming, arrives in Japan from the continent. You might be able to see on this map where rice farming first arrived and spread, which was initially in northern Kyushu. There were various routes through which it spread. But it is generally believed to have expanded from northern Kyushu through the Kansai and Kanto regions. As it moved towards the Kanto region, it encountered different cultures, which caused some delays in its expansion. Despite these challenges, eventually, it spread throughout Japan. Once rice farming became widespread, the lifestyle of the Yayai period began to take shape. This is how the lifestyle changed. You might remember things like the stone sickles, which were used for harvesting rice. These tools are a clear indication of Yayai culture. The transition from the Jomon to the Yayai period brought significant cultural changes. During the Jomon period, people lived by hunting, gathering, and eating nuts and meat. In contrast, the Yayai period introduced rice cultivation. People started to rely on rice as a staple food, which meant they had to plan their activities throughout the year. Unlike hunting, agriculture requires collaboration. You can't manage it alone. As you see, people need to come together and cooperate to manage things. Creating irrigation systems alone is quite challenging, and managing vast rice fields alone is impossible. Thus, villages began to form. Large fields like these cannot be managed by a single person. So people started living together in villages. This model shows how vast rice fields would be managed collectively. People came together to form villages. In order to separate their village from others, they built moats around their settlements. These moats, or kango in Japanese, also served as defensive structures. They were used to protect the village from intruders, similar to how modern castles have moats. Even in the modern era, castles were built with moats. This moat system can be thought of as a form of early castle defense. So, these moated settlements were essentially the predecessors of castles. The Yayai period saw a significant increase in the sense of distinguishing between us and them. This sense of distinction developed rapidly during this period. With people working together to grow rice, there naturally arose the need for leaders to take command. Thus, society began to form hierarchical structures, with distinctions between ordinary people and leaders. This led to the creation of social classes and hierarchies. In summary, the Yayai period was characterized by both increased social organization and the emergence of social stratification. Leaders in these communities were responsible for making decisions for the village. This included planning for spring, summer, autumn, and winter. In other words, they needed to have a year-round perspective and make plans accordingly. With this foresight, they would plan and issue instructions to the villagers. What are they doing in spring? The tasks for spring are listed here. It's the time for preparing for rice planting. For this, they would build embankments or similar structures to manage the water flow in and out. They were preparing for the rice planting. Then, in summer, they would actually plant the rice. In autumn, they would harvest the rice that was planted in summer. In winter, they would maintain their farming tools. Additionally, they would also engage in cooking or boiling food. This is where they use pottery. Currently, I am at a place called the Yai-kan. From here, if you go east, you'll find a reconstruction of a moated settlement that we saw earlier. Let's go see the actual thing. Certainly. The reconstructed site here at the Itazuke ruins represents a scene from the Yai period. Here, you can see a reconstruction of a village from around Fukuoka during the Yai period. Currently, I'm in a place with a concrete entrance, which obviously wasn't there back then. The entrance has a bridge, and on either side are moats called kango. These moats separate the inside of the village from the outside and served as defensive structures during conflicts. Inside the village, you can see a reconstructed pit house. Unfortunately, the entrance is blocked off with a chain, so we can't go inside. It seems dark inside, but you can tell from the presence of several houses that multiple households lived here together. Although it's hard to imagine from the bustling Fukuoka of today, it's fascinating to think about how people lived in ancient Fukuoka. It really makes you appreciate the history and development of the region. There is a small moat-like feature here. From what I researched earlier, it seems there were graves around this area. I think that's what was mentioned. Can I go check it out? All right. So, it looks like there are some depressions here. Like this. And this one too. These are depressions, which might indicate burial sites for people from the village. It seems they used to bury the deceased here. The people who lived in ancient Fukuoka were among the first to embrace continental culture. So they must have been very impressed by it. Naturally, their interest would have shifted towards the continent. With that in mind, I'm heading towards the sea. To get from the Itazuke ruins to Hakata Bay, it seems best to take the bus. Now, I've arrived at Hakata Port. From here, I'll be taking a ferry operated by Fukuoka City. I bought a ticket inside the building and have now arrived at the boarding area. It's my first time riding this, and it's quite a small boat. So, let's set sail from Hakata Port. Our destination is Shika Island. Shika Island, as you can see on the map, is now connected to the mainland. However, it used to be a real island. The waters from the Sea of Japan carried sand, which accumulated to form the land. This sandbar-like terrain has led to it being part of the mainland today. The building in the center is Marine Mess Fukuoka. Next to it is the red ship, the Queen Beetle, which has been in the news recently. Further behind it is the international ferry, New Camellia, connecting Fukuoka and Busan, Korea. The Queen Beetle also used to operate on the Busan route, but it is currently out of service due to flooding. Today, when people think of foreign countries, they often think of places like the United States or Europe. However, in the past, the only foreign lands Japanese people knew about were the Korean Peninsula and China. As the closest foreign lands, Fukuoka in northern Kyushu flourished. Fukuoka, having thrived as an international city, still bears that influence today. It remains a hub for international connections through airplanes and ships. During the Heian period, Fukuoka was the place where the most advanced cultures arrived. Today, the area around here is full of warehouses, making it a crucial transportation hub. Looking in the opposite direction of travel, you can see the familiar scenes often depicted in Fukuoka posters. The pointed tower on the right is Fukuoka Tower, and the building with the round roof on the left is Mizuho Pei Dome Fukuoka. While the scene is very different now, foreigners visiting Japan for the first time would have seen this kind of landscape in Fukuoka. I was enjoying the view outside, but you can also sit inside, cooling off with the air conditioning while traveling. If you live in Fukuoka, you might not ride this ferry often, but taking it occasionally can lead to new discoveries. The ferry will first stop at the port of Nishitoseki, before heading to the destination, Shikanoshima. From the boat, you can also see how sand is transported and accumulated by ocean currents. So, we've arrived at Shikanoshima. The place I'm heading to, Kanan Park, is a bit of a distance away, about 1 kilometer or so. It's walkable, but since it's hot, I'll be taking the bus. The bus has arrived. It's probably time to match the ferry schedule, so there wasn't much of a wait. So, I've arrived at the Kanan-zuka bus stop. Right next to it is Kanan Park, where the famous Kanan gold seal was discovered. Many people might remember this from school lessons. It's the place where the Kanan gold seal, issued by the Han Emperor Guangwu in 57 AD, was found. The return bus is at 1:04 p.m., so I have about 30 minutes to explore here. Heading up, there's an information board like this. Let's see what it says. The board says, Kanan Park commemorates the discovery of the gold seal inscribed with Han Wei Nu Guo Wang in 57 AD. The seal was given to the king of the Nu, or Nikoku, by the Han Emperor Guangwu. The park celebrates the finding of this seal in this area. Nu, or Nikoku, was a country located in the vicinity of where I was earlier, near the Itazuke site, just a little south. This country unified various groups, forming a larger entity. There were many such countries within Japan. The king of Nu sent emissaries to China, receiving the gold seal as a mark of recognition. That's the story behind the Kanan gold seal. At the entrance of the park, there's a stone monument established in Taisho 11, 1922. The monument is inscribed with Han Wei Nu Guo Wang no Kinan Hako no Tokoro. You might have seen something similar earlier. It's right over there. Since it faces south, the sunlight can be quite intense. But if you climb to the top, there's a plaza called the Observation Plaza. You can see a replica of the gold seal up there. Can you see it? It's a small replica, but there's a mirror placed underneath it. The replica is quite small, and if you look through the mirror, you can see the inscriptions. It's a bit hard to see, but you can make out the text. The text says, Han Wei Nu Guo Wang, which is the inscription on the actual seal. It's written on the reverse side of the seal. This is what would appear if the seal was pressed. How should I describe it? It's what you'd see when the seal is stamped. The gold seal here is a replica. But where is the original seal? Actually, you can see it from here. It's located over there, in the cluster of buildings. The tallest building is the Fukuoka Tower. And just below it, though it's not visible from here, you can find the Fukuoka City Museum. The original gold seal is kept there, and you can see it in person. If you want to see the real one, it's worth a visit. On top of the gold seal is a decorative feature, which is said to be a snake. This part here is thought to be the head of the snake. When it was first discovered, there were doubts because there were no examples of snake seals in China. Some even questioned whether it was a fake. However, later discoveries, I believe in Yunnan province, revealed similar snake-shaped seals. This confirmed that the gold seal is authentic. As mentioned earlier, the location of the ancient state of Na was south of the Itazuk ruins, so it raises the question of why the Na gold seal was found here on Shika Island. The clue to this is written on the information board. The board explains how the gold seal was used. The seal was used for important documents and sealing packages. It was used to create an official seal, and this is how it functioned. The gold seal would have been used to press and seal documents or packages. Currently, I am on Shika Island, which is in the northern part of Fukuoka Prefecture. With the proximity to the Korean peninsula, it's plausible that Shika Island was used as a base for diplomacy and trade. It seems likely that this island played a role in those activities. So, this explanation fits well with the historical context of the gold seal's discovery. With that, we've covered the Paleolithic, Jomon, and Yayai periods of Fukuoka's history. I think we're about done with those periods. Next, I'll take a bus and then a train to head towards Hakata, the center of Fukuoka. From there, I'll move on to discussing the next era, the Kofun period, by heading south to the Yame region. Now, I've arrived in the southern part of Fukuoka. The road in front of me is Route 3. Nearby, there is the Iwatoyama Kofun. If you asked history enthusiasts to name the most famous Kofun in Fukuoka Prefecture, many would likely mention the Iwatoyama Kofun. The Kofun itself is located just beyond this building, but it's recommended to first visit the building to learn more about what the Iwatoyama Kofun is. Right next to the entrance, there is a stone statue. In Kyushu, during the Kofun period, there was a cultural development of creating statues from stone. What happened was, Kyushu has Aso volcano, so volcanic tuff from Aso was used, if I recall correctly. Sorry if that's a mistake. Beside it, there are lanterns. Yame, known for its traditional crafts, might have influenced this. Inside the museum, there's an exhibit about the history of the Southern Dynasty in the city. Since this pertains to the Nanboku-cho period, which is much later, I won't go into much detail about it today. Instead, we will focus on the story of Chikushi no Kimi or Iwai of Chikushi. In the back, you can see what looks like a mountain of stones. This is likely the Iwatoyama Kofun. And, in the foreground, are the family of Iwai. At that time, it was common to build a tomb like this during one's lifetime. In modern terms, it could be seen as a sort of pre-funeral ceremony. Here, there's a timeline covering the history of China, the Korean Peninsula, and Japan, including Yame. Let's take a quick look at it. This is the Itazuk ruins I introduced earlier. It dates back to around the 1st century BC. Next, we have the Kin'in Park and the Kin'in discussed earlier, which are from the Yayai period. Also mentioned is Yoshinogari ruins in Saga. I didn't cover it this time, but I'll discuss it when I create a video about Saga. Next is the Yoshinogari ruins. After the Yayai period, the Kofun period, which is quite long, includes the events of the Iwai rebellion we are discussing, which took place in 527 AD. Here's a useful map that will help explain what the Iwai rebellion was about. At that time in Japan, the country wasn't called Japan but Wyo or Wa. The most powerful entity among them was the Yamato state. Japan was not unified at that time, So while the Yamato state had influence in the surrounding areas, in northern Kyushu, power was held by figures like Iwai of the Chikushi clan. Various regions and people held power in different places. Amidst this, the Yamato state was friendly with the Baekje kingdom on the Korean peninsula. In contrast, Chikushi no Kimi Iwai was allied with the Shilla kingdom. The Yamato state planned to support Baekje and attack Shilla, and mobilize troops for that purpose. Meanwhile, Shilla asked Iwai to obstruct the Yamato troops from coming to their aid. Thus, a conflict erupted. This is what is known as the Iwai Rebellion. In essence, the Yamato state, sending troops to the Korean peninsula, was the main objective, but underlying this was a larger goal: to unify Japan as a whole. The Iwai Rebellion was one aspect of this broader national unification effort. In the past, throughout Japan, various regions had powerful local chieftains or leaders, known as Gozoku, who were significant figures in their areas. Among these leaders, there were higher-ranking individuals who managed multiple chieftains, such as Chikushi no Kimi Iwai, who was a prominent leader in this region. We're focusing on the southern part of Fukuoka Prefecture, which had its own unique culture. In this southern area, there was a distinct tradition of creating stone figures, such as those of people and horses. These are known as stone figures or ishijin and ishiba. The stone horse is seen here, though it doesn't look much like a horse now due to damage. It likely had a head in the past. Unlike the unique Kyushu culture of stone figures and stone horses, another type of historical artifact found throughout Japan is Haniwa. As mentioned here, the Imazukiyama Kofun, where Emperor Keitai is said to rest, is a place I've visited before. At such sites, Haniwa encircle the tomb and are placed around the mound. This placement creates a distinctive display. The early Japanese history depicted here shows that during the time of Emperor Keitai, the Yamato state fought against the Chikushi no Kimi. In the end, it is noted that the Yamato state defeated Iwai, which means Iwai was defeated. Thus, the Yamato state succeeded in unifying Japan and gaining control over northern Kyushu. Iwai's son, Katsuko, pledged allegiance and offered the Kasuya no Miyake, a piece of land, to the Yamato state, thus avoiding death. Various locations are considered as potential candidates for the Tomura, a granary or land grant. And one such candidate is shown in the photo of the granary. This site is located in Koga City, northern Kyushu. I think I might have filmed it the last time I visited. So if I did, the footage might be playing now. The location is quite close to the sea. So, with control over this coastal area in northern Kyushu, the Yamato state could conduct attacks. Next, let's visit the Iwatayama Kofun. When visiting ancient tombs, it's often hard to appreciate their significance just by walking around. From a personal perspective, it might just seem like a grassy field with trees and a blue sky, with thoughts like it's hot today. But using a map changes the perspective and reveals a completely different view. So, let's take a look at the map. Here it says Iwatayama Kofun, and it mentions that it's less crowded than usual. But is it possible for Iwatayama Kofun to be crowded at times? Anyway, looking at this map, it might be easier to understand from this perspective. You might have learned this in school. It's a keyhole-shaped tomb, also known as a Zinpo-kun fan. The front part is square, and the rear part is circular. That's why it's called a keyhole-shaped tomb. Why do I remember this? There are various shapes of tombs. The Iwatayama Kofun you see now is a keyhole-shaped tomb. But there are also round and square tombs. So what makes the keyhole-shaped tomb special? It's because it was used by the Yamato state. For example, here is the Hashihaka kofun. You can see it has the clean shape of a keyhole-shaped tomb. This is also a keyhole-shaped tomb. You can tell it has the neat shape of a keyhole-shaped tomb. So where is this tomb located? It's a famous tomb, so many people might know it. It is located in Nara Prefecture. In the Kofun period, there were no phones or emails. So you couldn't send a message saying please build a round and square-shaped tomb. Thus, the shape was passed down through word of mouth. The keyhole-shaped tombs were widely used across Japan. From the Kanai region, the culture of using keyhole-shaped tombs spread. Eventually, it spread throughout Japan. This matches the expansion process of the Yamato state. Thus, keyhole-shaped tombs are considered very important. The Yamato state, having successfully suppressed the Ui rebellion, was able to incorporate northern Kyushu into its territory. Thus, they established an administrative office in Fukuoka to oversee Kyushu. That office was Dazaifu. This video does not cover Dazaifu, but I plan to discuss the history after Dazaifu as well. Thank you for watching.